What's happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. In this episode, we'll be reviewing that draw to Wolves because Tottenham left it late to snatch a point. Wolves remain to be our bogey team. We'll also be previewing Bodo Glimt in the Europa. When you said Europa League, Champions League, I was going to say it's a familiar name from us being in the Europa League. Isn't it funny we're told by all these rival fans? We'll be playing Frankfurt. We'll be playing Bodo Glimt in the Champions League. Well, we're playing both of them, so two fingers up to them. But it should be a really good episode tonight. So thank you all for joining. Let's introduce my fantastic panel because you know who I am. I'm Harry Scarfe. I'm your host as always. Firstly, I wanted to introduce the legend himself, a key part of the podcast, as well as my main thumbnail and graphics designer. Can't speak highly enough of him. Wheelsy, thanks so much for coming on. How are you doing?
Thank you for inviting me once again, mate. It's always a pleasure to be on this podcast, and I'm looking forward to dissect the result. I know it's never the result that we look for, but Wolves always have our number, and they know how to break us up and tear us down. But we got the point in the end, and I'm looking forward to dissect it. So let's do it.
Let's do it indeed. Thank you very much, Wheelsy, for joining us. And you're joining us from the UK, right?
Yeah, of course. Outside of London, so not too far.
No, that's all good. Thank you very much. And I'm joined by Philip. Philip, tell us where you're joining from, and I hope you're keeping well as well.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Harry. Thanks for having me on again. Always a pleasure. I'm joining from Frankfurt in Germany. Been living here for about 15 years, but I am British. Born and bred, Spurs fan from birth. But yeah, over here on the continent for quite a long time now, and trying to grow our Spurs fan base here over in the land of German. The land of sausage.
Exactly. But tell people a little bit, Philip, about what you do, because you play a big part in gathering those Spurs fans together, don't you, over in Germany?
Yeah, I've been was a founding member of the biggest main kind of official Tottenham Hotspur supporters club in southern half of Germany a couple of years back, and I just got promoted onto the board there, and we're really trying to kind of push on, a lot of positive fan activities here in the country. It helps obviously that we're playing in a few months here in Frankfurt again, so literally a couple of miles away from my place. So we've had a couple of good games over here over the last couple of seasons. Dortmund a couple of years back before that. So it helps obviously to get all of the Spurs fans over here, and we're getting more and more German Spurs fans nowadays, right? A few years back we were kind of struggling against the other top teams, but we're really kind of seeing some good progress now. So I wouldn't say we're any massively less represented than some of the other kind of bigger clubs in the UK. So it's all good.
Good stuff. Thank you for all the work you do, Philip, and thanks for coming on tonight. I won't say tonight to you, though, Mike, because I know you're joining really early in the morning, so that might give a little bit of a clue there. But where are you joining from? And I hope you're keeping well, mate.
Yeah, g'day, fellas. It's great to be here. Great to be here with the audience. Esteemed company, got Wheelsy and King. And look, Frankfurt's pretty exotic, but Sydney, Melbourne, hard place to grow a Spurs fan base. It's happening slowly, but we only get the rabble Newcastle every couple of years in a pre-season friendly. So not easy to grow the fan base, but we're doing what we can over here in Oz. And I'm actually bloody loving life under Frank. It's exciting to have a manager who's actually tactical, who prepares for each opponent, who actually puts in a bit of thought to the formation and way of playing. And I think he just conducts himself superbly. So looking forward to talking all things Spurs, and excited about Bodo. I think we're going to go in very strong.
Lovely stuff. Thank you, Mike. And thank you all for joining us. If you're listening on a podcast platform, so that's via audio, please do drop us a follow and a 5-star review, particularly if you're new. But if you're listening live on YouTube, please do get involved. Like, subscribe as well, because you can listen on YouTube or any podcast platform afterwards. So please do, and let us know where you're joining from, where you're listening from. But before we get into all the football chat or the Tottenham chat, let's go through a few partnership stuff. I want to start with the Kitman, who one of our partners. So you can check out the Kitman for your genuine classic past season football shirts, shorts and scarves. So you can relieve that former players. Also memorabilia with goals, with some retro memorabilia from the Kitman. You can use the coupon Scarfey15. This is still active. Repeat, Scarfey15, it's capital S, for a 15% discount. And next I want to move on to is our second partner in Everything Spurs Discord, one of the biggest online Tottenham communities with over 9,800 members worldwide. It's owned by Wheelsy on the panel tonight. You'll know he's a regular of the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast, a renowned Spurs content creator, one of the best out there, if I may say so myself. Wheelsy is also a very big part of the Thumbnails team. And inside his server, you'll find live match chat during every Spurs game, transfer news and rumours, loads of Spurs banter and debate. You've got your gaming, FPL, and off-topic channels to keep everything fun between matches. I think we all need that in our world. So it's basically your 24/7 virtual hub for Tottenham fans. So if you are Spurs, make sure you get involved. Willsy, you got anything to add? Because it's a very new partnership. Very proud to have you on board.
Well, all I have to say is that you can see how active it is based on that, what the activity going on in the YouTube chat. So I'm really glad that I have the community involved with the podcast now, and it's a great thing to see both of our worlds colliding. And I think it's a great thing, if I'm honest. If you want to join the Discord server, it's discord.gg/COYS in your web browser, and you'll be able to join directly from there.
Lovely stuff. Thank you, Willsy. Can confirm that I'll be setting up a Discord account. You might have to teach me how to use it. And sounds weird for someone so young, but I haven't got a clue. But I'm all interested. I'm all ears, especially as it's all things Tottenham, and some fantastic people in there. So I can already see by the YouTube chat. But thank you, Willsy, for this partnership. And last but not least, today's podcast is sponsored by My Mystery Shirt. My Mystery Shirt is the cheapest online mystery shirts box. Price match guaranteed. If you find it cheaper elsewhere, then match the price. All shirts are 100% genuine as well. Perfect present for any football fan, for birthday, for Christmas, and also general jersey collectors. Prices for adults are $29.99, or if you subscribe monthly, you can save up to £3 per box. So you can head over to mymysteryshirt.co.uk and enter my promotion code, which is Harry15, Harry10, take it back, completely wrong, Harry10, all in capitals at the checkout for a discount. And also have a jersey to unbox with you right now. So I have absolutely no idea what's inside here. Whether you watch on YouTube, you can see it. Whether you can't see it, I haven't got a clue, right? So I'm given this white box that says My Mystery Shirt. All I've been told is there's no Arsenal shirt. So let's unbox this and see what we've got. You'll be surprised as I am. I mean, it'd be great, wouldn't it, if it could be a Tottenham shirt, but that feels too good to be true. So if I can get into it, we'll find out what we've got. I'm hoping, in a way, it's not another Premier League team, but that's the thing with the boxes. You can't guarantee it. It might be a good thing for a jersey collector, but it depends if you have grudges or not against certain fans. What have we got then?
Could be a Bodo shirt for tomorrow.
Could be. Imagine. Oh, I like the colour of it anyway. Here we go. It's New York City Football Club. There we go.
Very nice.
Look at that. It's a great shirt. It's huge as well. So it's lovely. So there you go, guys. If you want something like that, go get involved, use the promotion code, go check out My Mystery Shirt. And I want to thank them for sponsoring today's podcast, because that is a pretty impressive shirt. And that's the thing, for amazing prices like that. I mean, who should be paying, £60, £70, or in the case of Tottenham, £100 or so for shirts when you get things like that look absolutely fantastic. If you can't see it by audio, head over to YouTube. Or I believe I have enabled the function on all audio podcast platforms, such as Spotify and Amazon Music, to check it out. So you should be able to see it, but it's blue and orange if you can't. It looks very like the Manchester City kit. I think it's cool. You've got the Etihad, whereas you've got the Adidas, but I really like that. So there you go, guys. And I want to thank them for that little gift for you. But let's get straight into it then. I'm glad it's not like a Chelsea or West Ham shirt. I was absolutely fearing that, if I'm honest with you. Let's get into all the football and the fun stuff then. Wolves review. Start 11 for Spurs, if people didn't see it. Tottenham start 11 was Vicario, Spence, Romero, Van der Ven, Doggy. That was the back line. A midfield of Paulinho, Bentancur, Bergvall, and a front line of Kudus, Richarlison, and Simmons. The substitutes bench as follows: Kinski, Danso, Porro, Gray, Sarr, Johnson, Odebear, Tell, and Scarlett. Wheelsy, can I start with you? What were your thoughts at the time when that team was announced, as it is now, an hour and 15 before kickoff?
Well, I was looking at the defensive midfield and I saw both Paulinho and Bentancur in that defensive midfield holding, and I thought we that's not a good combination, because they're both very similar players. That they're very defensive, and I think we needed to have a more attacking midfield. And again, Xavi's been put out on the left because we have no other left winger options. Everyone knows that he's more comfortable as a 10, and that's where I wanted to see him play. But Frankfurt differently, and it was I wasn't too surprised by the lineup, but I would have made a few changes myself. Changed the midfield up a bit, maybe put Gray in there instead of Bentancur. But other than that, no complaints really.
Okay, cheers, Wheelsy, for that. Philip, can I come to you? Pedro Porro I want to focus on because he was on the bench. Would you look at that and go, that was a much-needed rest? Fans were getting a bit concerned about the amount of games he played. Obviously, played a lot under Ange Postecoglou last year. So did that surprise you? And do you think that's a good thing, even looking back now?
When the team was announced, I was happy actually with that. I thought it was good to rest him for that game. I'd rather he plays in the Champions League match tomorrow and probably at the weekend. You know, Wolves at home, despite our kind of record against them, right? Kind of bogey team, lack of results over the last couple of seasons against them. I thought Spence probably deserved a start at right back as well. Just to see him on the right. I don't think we'll talk about his performance, until later on, but I was quite happy to see Spence start the game, actually. I can't remember the last time he's actually played on the right for us. If he actually has even in phases, I can't remember. Maybe last season. But, he's obviously done such a good job on the left. But, I thought it was good and fair to give Porro a bit of a rest, to be honest. I thought as well in the last couple of games that Porro didn't play badly, but he's still doing his diagonal balls, etc. But I didn't think that Porro was at his absolute top level over the last 2-3 games, to be honest. So I thought it was quite good to give him a bit of time on the bench, to be honest. So I was happy with Frank's decision on him.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of people felt the same, especially at the time, as you said. Of course, context is important. It's easy to sit here and now and go, that was wrong, should have done this, should have done that. But in the moment, I think we all felt that way anyway with Porro. So thank you, Philip, for that one. But Mike, can I ask you about Xavi Simons? Because he started, well, we didn't know at the time, of course, we saw the team, but it did seem quite obvious when the lineup was announced that he was playing left wing. What was your reaction to that? Of course, fans, we want to see him in that 10 generally after seeing him in that 10 come off the bench against Brighton and make that impact.
Yeah, look, I think everyone's on the same page with Xavi. 10's where he plays his best football, but I think that's a bit deliberate by Frank. I think he hasn't got a solution for the left wing, as we were seeing King you've mentioned before. So he's the best player, really, almost in that midfield as the attacking option. So if you don't have an option on the left, then maybe it makes sense because he's a bit lighter framed and he's adjusting to the Premier League. Get him out on the left, protect him a little bit. Although I must say he got fouled more than Jack Grealish on a regular Saturday on the weekend, so it wasn't great. He's getting chopped a fair bit, so I do worry about him. And I think that he's going to be fantastic for us. He's got little moments of magic, and they will come, but it's a new league for him. He's really young. He's also adjusting to a new side and manager, and he just needs a bit of time. I think he will get his shot centrally. I think the penny's starting to drop for Frank, but I think, in fairness, the responsibility sits with Odobed and Tell to actually claim that left wing role, which no one's done well. So I'm really hoping to see actually Tell come in for Bodo. We'll talk about that later, and maybe do something on the left or centrally and give Xavi maybe a bit more freedom to do his thing in the 10 role.
Okay, that's a really good point, actually. Thank you very much for getting to how Simmons performed at the left wing position, because he did move position later in the game. But we'll get into the action then. And I want to review firstly that first half kind of in general, because there's no goals in it, and it was Tottenham 0, Wolves 0 at half time. XG then, expected goals. Of course, that's not the only stat that does matter. The most important stat is the scoreline. But Tottenham's XG, that's expected goals, was 0.68 and Wolves was 0.23. Wheelsy, the stats suggest it was a dominant first half by Tottenham. Not clearly, but in control of the game. If anyone was going to score the most likely, would you say it was a good first half?
I mean, I was at the game on Saturday, as you were as well. No, I wouldn't say that we played our best, but we did look the better team for the first half. Obviously, we didn't really look like scoring much, but we kept going forward, yeah, that's all I got to say, really. Like, obviously, the second half, there's a lot more to unpack. But for the first half, I don't think there was really much going on there, if I'm honest.
No, there wasn't. Exactly, no. Nice, short, sweet answer. Thank you, Wheelsy. Mike, good circle round to you. Would you say we were unlucky not to be ahead? Of course, like I said to Wheelsy, it wasn't the case of, the goals necessarily coming in terms of we're battering them and, it was only a matter of time. But you felt like we had control. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's they had a lot of chances. They had a lot of possession in the front half. They didn't convert opportunities, so that's just crap by us. We've got to be better than that. And Wolves at home, the home record is appalling. So you think a good opportunity against the bottom side to really make some ground up there. And I agree with the comments previously. Wheelsy and King said, we went a bit defensive. Maybe shouldn't have had Bentinger and Paulinho in there. I think they went front foot, which was good despite the formation, but they couldn't convert, and then they paid in the end, which they often do, going 1-0 down. So, I think it was a bit of a slumber party of a game, if I'm honest. I didn't love it. Thought it was pretty grim, but to get the point in the last few minutes, bloody hell, where would we be without our new mate Paulinho? He's just kicking absolute goals in every way for us. Thrilled.
Absolutely is. We'll get onto that goal and Paulinho and just how important that was for him and for the team. But Philip, moving on to now the second half as we progress. 54th minute was the first goal of the game. Unfortunately, it did go to the visitors, Wolves, through Santiago Bueno. I mean, is it the worst possible start to the half for Spurs after a first half of pressure, of dominance? It didn't really seem like Wolves were going to score in that first half, and then to have them land that blow within 9 minutes is not good, is it?
It's just a typical Spurs kind of situation really that we've seen over the last couple of years. Again, going back to the first half just very quickly, I thought we actually played well in the first half. I know there was quite a lot of moaning and groaning about it, but we, in my opinion, we desperately deserved to be ahead at half time. Like Wolves, although they had some nice little spells of possession, they got into some nice positions kind of at time. I mean, they didn't really threaten in the first half really. We could have easily scored 2 goals in the first half, and we certainly deserved to score 1. And I think it would have been fully okay. Second half, we didn't come out well. I was a bit disappointed that Frank didn't make a sub straight away. But I think we've seen over the last couple of games that Frank tends to give the players a bit of a chance, at the beginning of the half, right after his kind of tweaking the tactics, gives them 10, 15, 20 minutes before making a sub, which is actually fair enough, to be honest, right? And it was a bit of a soft goal to concede, really, wasn't it, as well? Like, they didn't play like a great, kind of well-moved goal from Wolves' perspective. It was a bit of a gift, really. Vicario didn't look good. I think there was a comment just flew in there. I'm not sure you can put it down as a keeping error, right, per se. But, I mean, Vicario didn't look good on it, right? And Vicario wasn't really that good in this game, like a lot of our players, to be honest. But he looked nervous. His distribution was awful in this game. He was back to bad old Vicario, right? From his kicking, the amount of times he kicked the ball out of play, right? An hour half, it wasn't good enough. And, probably Vicario will look at that though and say, well, could probably do better than that, on that goal. And there was another goal recently that Vicario let in a bit soft as well, right? Where he should have got probably a proper palm on it. So I don't want to open the Vicario debate now. I think it's the wrong time to do that, but I have no issues personally with Kinski even, starting. He's not going to start him tomorrow, right, in the Champions League. But I've got absolutely no issues with starting Kinski, by the way, in Premier League games or in important games and giving him a run. I think I said it a year ago, whenever it was when we signed him. Did we sign him back last summer or in January? I can't remember. But
January.
He's going to be our number one within probably 12 to 15 months. And I still stick with that. I think he's going to get a chance at some point and he's going to take it. He's going to run with it. But, look, bad start to the half. And look, I mean, it was a shell shock to us, wasn't it? I mean, we didn't deal with it very well with the goal. I think we probably all hoped that we'd kind of wake up and come out with fire in our belly and, start attacking them, but we didn't, right? I'll leave you and the others to probably, take that one step further. But again, it kind of got worse, didn't it, as the half went on? At least those 20 minutes after that goal, we kind of disintegrated in terms of confidence, in terms of energy. We were losing the 50-50s. Yeah, not a good start to the half. But yeah. But it's Wolves, again, let me, it's already been mentioned here, Mike, I think, mentioned that we've got a horrible home record against Wolves. I mean, Ange lost his first two games against Wolves. Then he got a draw, and then he lost 4-2, and look, again, going to the end of the point, we got a point out of this game, and Wolves only scored 1 goal, and I don't think they came close, really. They were putting pressure on, but they didn't come close, really, to knocking on the door to score more. So, look, long story short, we're building a team again. We're building a solid unit. That's what Frank's doing, and I'd much rather he sorts the defence out first of all, right, and then builds on it rather than starting to play amazing attacking football and us still conceding 2-3 soft goals a game. So, but it's just it's disappointing when we give away stupid goals still, though, like that goal, right?
Yeah.
If we get wonder goals against us, it's different, but we just always give away these avoidable goals, which is regrettable.
Can I jump in and just say, Harry, that King's got a fantastic point there. I think you summed up the difference between Tottenham under Ange and Tottenham under Frank. This is a team that actually is controlling games much better and managing the defence, despite sometimes doing very Spursy things like going, 1-0 down against the bottom side at home. So, but you can still see that they still get points and they still don't get blown out of the water. And I think that's a big positive, but they still got this Spursiness that's around. I hate to say it. They still got that whole, just do the things right,
Yeah, I think that's normal. No, thank you for this opening up a nice little discussion here. Thank you, Mike, for contributing on that. In terms of Vicario in particular, I've made a little bit of room for a little bit of a light-hearted kind of discussion debate later, because I've seen it kind of trending amongst Twitter. I seem to have a conversation about whether Vicario is good enough to wear the shirt, which, I find quite rude and insulting of Vicario, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. I think to suggest whether a goalkeeper should be a number 1 or number 2 is totally different from saying are they fit to wear the shirt. So it'll be disappointing to see actually big Spurs pages and podcasts use a certain type of language about this. Is disappointing, I would say. But without getting too much into it, Wheelsy, I'll come back round to you. In terms of a Spurs defensive point of view from this goal, do you think we could have done better to clear our lines? Vicario will get his fair share of criticism for that.
Yeah, of course. As it's been mentioned before, his distribution wasn't good at all. I remember seeing in the second half, he booted the ball over near the halfway line of the pitch for a throw-in by Wolves. It was quite shaky from him, to be honest. I don't know where the nerves was coming from, but Wolves just somehow have a way to make us seem like we are the team in the bottom half of the table, and it's really, really frustrating considering how many good games we've had already this season. We had 2-0 against City away. We beat West Ham comfortably away, and when it comes to Wolves at home, we just capitulate. So it's frustrating, to be honest, but it is what it is.
Very frustrating. Thank you, Wheelsy, for that one. It's annoying, but Mike, come to you. Is that just what Wolves needed at the start of the half? Something to kind of sit on almost, 11 men behind the ball, and it always felt like Wolves were going to do that. Yet to get before this game a single point, 5 straight defeats in the Premier League. The only wins coming in the Carabao Cup. They're always going to sit on a lead if they got it. So it's a shame that they got it really in that second half. Do you think that really changed the game?
Yeah, but like I said, I think that something when Kingy used a good word before. He said that we deserved to be ahead at half time, and we did, but deserve isn't enough. They got to make it happen, and that they didn't make it happen. They didn't take the most of their opportunities. So yeah, of course it sucks to go behind to Wolves. They've got a dismal record, and we should be smashing them. But I think they set up too defensively from the outset. We've already sort of covered that, and I think that the attacking intent was there, but when they didn't convert. A lot of energy gets sapped out of that team, and then they're on the back foot all of a sudden. And you can't sit back. You got to keep going. But I think they were very deflated, and then that that 54th minute goal, obviously further deflation. What I will say is, yeah, it's all bad, but in the end, they did come back, and I think that says something about the team. And I mean, maybe it also says something about bringing in experienced, high-quality, world-beating players like Paulinho, who are over 30 as well, to sort of round out what's a very young team. So, look, disappointing, but I will say that I must say, seeing players like Bergvall charging at full pace all the time and kind of going after, I know he's copped a bit of heat for his intensity. I think the Spurs still showed very good intensity at trying to get back in the game and trying hard. They just weren't good enough. So still credit to the team for the efforts.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I personally really agree with you on that. I align myself with that one. But, Mike, can I stick with you? Because before we move on from this goal, there's a couple of substitutions and change of formation we saw from Wolves at half-time. Do you think that was a big part of maybe why they scored this goal? And we, again, as we'll get on to and progress, why they had a decent second half, a really good second half for their standard of what we've seen this season. Did Victor Pereira get that half-time, not only double substitution right, but the change of formation to go to 3-5-2?
Yeah, look, I think it was smart. I mean, tactically they're not bad, but there's such a thing. I don't know if you have it in the Premier League, but what we call it here is like a bogey team. So like a team that you always screw up against. And I think for us, that's just become Wolves. So, I think that we're haunted by a pretty crappy record against a pretty crappy team. And sometimes these teams can bring you down to their level. So I think that's sort of what happens too. And yeah, I mean, I think Frank probably should have anticipated that if they scored, they'd sit, back and do some interesting things. But I think it wasn't his best game tactically. But I think even so, he got a point. So what can you say?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. The result is the most important in the end in football, as we always say. But in the 63rd minute, Spurs made a double substitution. On come Brennan Johnson and Pedro Porro on that right-hand side for Rodrigo Bentancur and Jed Spence, who both made way. Simmons moved into the 10 at this point, and this was, include added time, about, let's say, round it up, about half an hour, to go for the rest of the game. So he had about 30 minutes, Simmons did, in that 10 role in this game. Woolsey, do you think Frank should have done this from the start? Should he have done it from halftime? Again, it's easy to look at it now, but a lot of us did want to see Simmons in that 10. Is that a decision you think he probably now regrets looking back?
I mean, when you asked me about the lineup, first of all, I said he needs to play in that 10 role because that's where he was most likely seen at Leipzig. That's his most comfortable position, and if he was just stuck there from the offset, and maybe we started Odegaard on that left wing, maybe the game outcome would have been different because the creativity in the midfield would have been a lot stronger. And I think that Xavi Simons is much better in that central role, so I would have much preferred to see him as a cam rather sitting on the left.
Agree with you. I've got a second part to the question, Wheelsy, which I was contemplating. I was thinking today, as well, I think it was on my way to college, and I was thinking, that's interesting. Do you agree with my thinking that the reason Frank at the moment is playing Simmons in the left isn't because I don't think he thinks he's better than the left. I actually think I believe that Frank believes or knows that he's better in the 10, but the reason he's playing him is trying to fit all his best players into one team. He's looked at Lucas Bergwijn and gone, you're such a key player. You've been really good this year. You have to be in the team. I think it's a very similar situation for Sarr and how he feels about other midfielders. So is it a case of Frank's trying to squeeze all these players in? We've seen Liverpool do it, like Szoboszlai play right back. I think that's a case of trying to get as many players into the team as possible, their best players, rather than looking at the individual and prioritising maybe them and their best position. Do you think he's just trying to include everyone?
Yeah, I think you make a fair point there, mate. Honestly, though, I think we don't have that many positions going on the left wing. We don't have very creative, very talented left wingers. So I feel like Frank was trying to compromise by putting Xavi on the left, as he knows that we don't have much of a depth out on that left. But hopefully in the January transfer window, we can bring in a player to fix that problem. But no, I think you are right in saying that he just tried to start his the best starting 11 that he best see fit, but it didn't work out clearly.
Clearly not. 65th minute then, Lucas Bergvall was booked, and in the 78th minute, Spurs made a double substitution. On come Pat Matar and on come Wilson Odegaard, another double change. Lucas Bergvall made way along with Xavi Simons, so we're bringing on two good players to have off the bench, but also losing two as well. So there's a question I want to bring up actually in the YouTube chat. It's to do with like kind of Bergval and who come off. It's also linked to Kudus who did stay on. So I'm going to ask it. It's from Hearts999. Speak up to him in the YouTube chat. And Philip, I'm going to give it to you. He says, during that Wolves game, I noticed that Bergval and Kudus were linking up really well, almost like the Kane and Son. Could this be the new Kane and Son style of play? I mean, that's a big kind of question there because we all know Kane and Son, the most dynamic duo in the Premier League. What do you think? Is it a reasonable suggestion even?
Well, I get in some shape or form, yeah. I mean, obviously, completely different, positions and players, right? Kane being the striker and Son kind of being a striker as well. Them scoring a lot of goals and getting a lot of assists, between one another. But I think probably in terms of like them playing closely together and being aligned and knowing what each one's going to do. And obviously then knowing where they're going to make runs into. Why not? Because, I mean, Bergval would play on the right-hand side anyway more, and Kudus will play on the right. I mean, I think it's clear that Kudus isn't a left winger. He played there last season for West Ham and it didn't work. It's probably why we got him a bit cheaper as well in the end, together with Levy, actually negotiating as always, like really well. But, Bergval and Kudus will generally play on the right-hand side and, Bergval will drive forward if he gets the opportunity. I think it's clear that Bergval needs to play a bit more attacking, like a bit more coming forward, but he's not a number 10, right? He's more of a number 8. We've got a lot of number 8s really, in our squad as well. And I think that's a bit of an issue, because, and coming to a bigger point around, that right-hand side, but also midfield, I don't think Frank knows what his best midfield is. In fact, he definitely doesn't know what his best midfield is yet. And he deserves time, right? He's 8 league games in or less, whatever, less than that, right? But he's 10 games into Spurs, right? He's going to need time to learn that. But I think it's clear that he doesn't know what his best starting midfield is, and I think he also doesn't know what his best kind of subbed midfield is, right? Changing it still, like in terms of where the players kind of are positioned on the pitch. I thought we missed Sarr, I think, in that phase of the second half yesterday. How he's been so far this season, getting on the ball, like his physicality. I didn't think Sarr was very good actually after coming on, personally. Bergval yesterday, I thought first half he was very good. Again, second half kind of went a bit missing, again. But again, everyone did, right? I can't really blame Bergval too much for that. But Bergval's been our man of the match, hasn't he, really, for the last couple of games? So he's not going to play like that every game. But, I think, Bergval and Kudus are going to be eventually kind of first choice. There's no doubt that Bergval is going to be our first choice in some shape or form, right? At some point in the season. If he's fit, Bergval will play just because of the quality that he has and the energy he has. And then the question is, who comes next to him? Is it Palhinha with Xavi in front, obviously, or is it Sarr? Where does Bentancur fit into this team? I thought he was awful, personally, against Wolves. Bentancur, I don't think he fitted into the team at all. Don't think he was effective at all. But that's another discussion. Frank's actually got a lot of decisions to make and a lot of stuff to learn, right? Because I just think he doesn't know yet how to set us up in the best way. And you're right, guys, as well. I think everyone mentioned it about Xavi as well, right? He's obviously best in the number 10 in that midfield, but I think he wants to get him in the team. And like someone mentioned in the chat with Modric, when we signed him, he started out on the left as well for about 15 games, and then he moved him inside once he was up to the pace of the Premier League, and I think he'll do that with Xavi as well, something similar to that. I also think that Frank may have thought that Xavi might automatically be better on the left, right? Like more effective, that he will just pick him there. And just because Xavi's got that, element of unpredictability, that creativity, that it would just work. And I think it hasn't quite worked, It's only when he's come inside and been given the ball, with space to drive forward that it's worked. So, I think the good thing is, coming back to the original question, is that Bergvall and Kudus are great players, both of them, and they will be first choice for us. And they are already connecting really well, and they will continue to be. I think the bigger challenge is who do you get to partner Bergvall, essentially, assuming that Xavi will be the number 10. And I'm glad I don't need to make that decision, because I think it's actually a really, really difficult one. And I think that's Frank's probably biggest challenge, personally, along with the striker situation and the left.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apart from that, everything else is locked in. But no, thank you, Philip, and appreciate you answering that. Hurt, so thank you for your question. Hope you're satisfied with the answer. It's a good question, and I hope you're right that Bergvall and Kudus, that link up, can be anything like Son and Kane. If it's not quite on par, anything like, is absolutely happy with me. But one thing I have absolutely no doubt about, and I think the panel can share with me, is they're both special players and they both have a bright future. Hopefully, it is at this club. So, like them both, particularly Bergvall, I think really bright future ahead of him. Yet to watch his documentary. That's on my watch list for tonight, actually. So apparently that's really, really good. It's just a short piece, so I'd recommend checking that out, because apparently it is good. I'd let you know what I think myself. But in the game, it's 5 minutes of additional time. At the end, obviously, it's still being 1-0 to Wolves. And in the 4th minute of additional time, Spurs got that goal. They got the equaliser, and it's through João Palhinha. Alex, Wheelsy, can I come back around to you? I mean, a lovely goal from Palhinha, wasn't it? I mean, it's not the first time he scored either. It's become a bit of a regular habit for him.
I mean, I made the grave mistake of leaving early to get the train home, so unfortunately, I really didn't want to, but my mum was very adamant that we got home. So it is what it is. But from what I've been seeing online, it was a lovely goal from outside of the box from Palhinha. There was a lot of plaudits on how he celebrated that goal. A lot of people were for it. A lot of people were against it. But personally, I think they say that rule number 1 is that you shouldn't fall in love with a lone player. But sue me, I've fallen in love with him. So sign him in the summer. Do what it takes. He's the number 6 that we've been begging for years. And no, it's a brilliant goal. And I wouldn't say we deserve the point, but a point is better than none. So
always, yeah, exactly that. But Willsy, can I stick with you, because Pat Massasar was involved in yet another goal, not him scoring this time, which he's been, doing a lot recently, but getting that assist off the bench. I mean, it's a lovely assist as well. And Philip makes an interesting point we should get on to in terms of how he played overall. But it's a ball in the box and tail, and Sarr does really well to kind of trap it and bring it down, and sets it up perfectly to be shot for Palhinha, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think Sarr's been very detrimental to our squad recently. He's everywhere. He's an engine, and I think the assist was very well deserved, considering his talent and what he does for the club. So, no, great assist, just great all-round play, and as I said, a point is a point, and I'll gladly take it.
Exactly. It's better than nothing. We'll get into that side of the performance, whether it's 1 point gained or 2 points dropped overall for Tottenham. But Mike, can I come back to you? I want to talk about his celebration. People didn't see he took his top off, which he got booked for. For you, is it excessive? We want to go and win the game. It's just a point at home against Wolves. You would expect it to win at the start of the day, and you don't like to see that? Or is it appropriate? For him, it's a big moment, scoring a goal at home, and it's just passion. How do you view it? Which side?
Harry, it's bloody very appropriate, mate, and they need to do it more and more. I mean, get excited, boys. This is football. What are we turning up for every day? So watching Palhinha think that his Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator was just fantastic. And he's been an absolute revelation in that 6th position, scoring at will, setting up goals at will. And it wasn't like he got a tap in and they got a draw, so he celebrated. He scored a fantastic, classy goal. So have at it. And I think that seeing Sarr involved was good. One thing I'll say about Sarr, just because we've touched on it a little bit, is I think he needs to be starting for us every game, absolutely. But I don't think he's good when he comes off the bench. He's one of those players who I think needs to get into the tempo of the game from the start. It seems to be he's a bit metronomic, Sarr. I think he kind of he sets the pace for us a little bit. His tempo through the midfield is critical, but I think if he's not on pace from the outset, he struggles to adapt to the pace of the game. So, yeah. And the other thing I'll just add on is like the challenge I think we have as well is we've got like Matters, not Matters, we've got Bergvall and Saar. They got huge hearts and they would play every minute of every game if they could, but you got to almost slow them down a bit because they're young. So I reckon that's a tricky one as well. And I think I hate rotating Saar out of the team, but I think that guy would run for 1,000 minutes straight if he could for Spurs. So you kind of need to manage him a bit.
Yeah, you do. Thank you, Mike. Philip, for you, should we go, and try and win the game after we get the equaliser momentum with Tottenham? About a minute or two to go. Of course, you never know how long you've got, do you? Added on, and that's the problem. I don't like that, by the way. Just a side note, you get additional time, and if there's any stoppages, any goals, anything in additional time, you don't know how long's left to play. But in the end, it turned out we had about 120 seconds after or so, roughly. Would you rather see Tottenham go for a little bit more? Because it's quite open. It felt like a bit nothingy, didn't it? No one really know where they should be or what to do. So do you think we should have gone all out for it?
I mean, number one, Mike's fully right about Palhinha celebrating like he did. No issues with that, right? Whatsoever. It was a great goal. It was in the 95th minute. Why not? And I think if you look back at the replay, I don't think it cost us like 2 minutes or anything like that. If you actually watch it again, he takes his shirt off, goes in the corner, then he kind of goes straight back, and then he has a chat with someone, puts his shirt back on. I don't think we lost a lot of time out of it. I think there was quite a few people making a big deal out of it, right? Saying, why is he doing that, the idiot kind of thing. No, he's got every right to do that. And I mean, when the game restarted, it was 96 minutes played. I mean, what realistically, what does it mean to go and try and win the game? I mean, what do you want to do? Just play a long, if we'd have played a long ball in the box, then people would have moaned and said, why are we playing a long ball? We should be trying to play some attacking stuff, right? Or if we got another cross in the box, they'd be like, oh, why are we doing another cross? The other 30 before that didn't arrive. So it's a bit of nothing. I mean, I think at the end of the day, when you kick off in the 96th minute, right, the other team obviously kicks off anyway, and then you hope you maybe pinch possession, and then I don't think you can plan what you're going to do, right? Either you in that moment, right, the player who's on the ball is going to launch a long ball, or they're going to see someone in space. And I think at that moment, probably we were anyways just absolutely delighted to get the point, because we probably, even though we were still going for it, you still don't really expect to get that 96 kind of minute equalizer, right? At that moment, I think. So I don't think we did anything wrong. I say fair play to the team for getting the equaliser. Fair play to the team for not conceding another goal, actually, right at the end, because last season we could have done, to be honest, right? Yeah. So they were solid. So I would say fair play. We finished the game really well. Kudos to Tell, actually, for the ball in. Right, which Saar then kind of cushioned down, because Tell did more in his little cameo than Odebert did, in my opinion. And again, that's another discussion for probably another time, another day, in terms of comparing those two guys and whether they are solutions on the left or whether Tell gets more game time up front. But I thought Tell did really well on the goal. He actually tried to get a ball in. And it was quite a good ball as well. It wasn't headed away by the first man, like most of our corners were in that game.
But you're right, in terms of there's a different conversation to be had, and a tough one as well about Tell and Odebert, whether Frank made the right choice, whether that will change later. And I've actually got a video coming out, firstly about Tell, then also a separate one with Odebert, as Wheelsy will know, the master behind creating it. Some amazing stuff. There are videos coming about that, because I think it's something that has to be discussed. I think we can all be in agreement that someone really needs to take that left wing position by grasp. It's a question of who it's going to be. It could be someone that maybe is not a natural left winger, that's the thing, or is it going to be a natural left winger? I do worry about us in that position, but hopefully someone can grab that by the scruff of the neck. But Wheelsy, well, firstly, 94th minute, Paulinho was booked, just to confirm. We do know that. But it was full-time, Tottenham 1, Wolves 1. So it's a point for us in the end. And we'll see. We come back from kind of a losing position now twice in a row to get a point. Do we deserve kind of credit for that resilience and mentality to come back? Both the Brighton and Wolves result at the start of the day we probably wouldn't have wanted or been happy with. But the fact we come from a losing position, does that also make it better?
Well, I think with the Brighton game, it was a point well deserved, but in the Wolves game, it was a point that we should have got 3. If I'm honest, it's on paper Wolves were with 0 points. We should have easily just took the game to bed, but we never make it easy, do we? And I think it's more of a 2 points lost for Wolves than 2 points lost for us, if I'm honest, because they came to our ground, they dominated, they showed that they were the real deal, and we couldn't capitalize on that. So that's my opinion on it.
Okay, thank you, Wheelsy. And Mike, I want to keep banging that drum about this resilience and fight, because not a lot of teams have it. There are teams that are down and out, and there are teams that just never accept they're kind of done in games. And there'll be times, won't there, where we won't be at the races. It'll be a bad day at the office. We saw that, for example, against Bournemouth. I think against Wolves at times. And against Brighton, like, we were okay and we got the results. We just showed fight back in that game. But Wolves is a very good example of, okay, we're awful, we need to forget about this, but we take 1 point rather than 0. So do we deserve so much credit, or would it be the manager, or in particular the players, for salvaging a difficult situation?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I don't think you ever want to give too much credit for having a pretty crap performance, going 1-0 down at home and then salvaging a draw. That's a bit going to set the wrong mentality. I think you want to say we were lucky, we got away with a point, and we really need to be better. So I think that's the message there, is that they need to set up differently. But I think that the point was also made, it's probably by you, Kingy, earlier, that Frank doesn't know his best side yet, or his best formation yet, and he's only a few games in. And to be fair as well, as good as Brentford have been, it's a step up being the head man at Spurs, and I think that he needs a bit of time to figure out, with the quality that he's got, what he's going to do. And I will say that if you think about what a manager's job is, it's really winning games, but also developing players. And if you look at some of the young players coming through and how well they're going, so you got that core of Sarr, Bergvall, all the young guys, Van der Ven, Kudus, they're all playing fantastic football, and they're all better than they were last season under Ange already. So I think that, they might not be getting the results perfectly all the time, but they're picking up important points where they can. And the players who are on the pitch are all getting better, and they've got a strong bench to choose from now, which they never had before. So I think, that there's really, really good signs there, even in games where you don't get the full 3 points.
Yeah, there's always going to be, isn't there, those times? That's the thing. However good of a club you are, everyone has a bad day at the office. So thank you, Mike. Philip, for you, though, does it feel like a loss? Do you view it as 1 point gained at the end, or overall are you one of those that look at it and go, no, it's still 2 points dropped because we expected to win?
I still think it's 2 points dropped, right? Theoretically, when I think everyone was probably looking forward to this all of last week in the game, and it's a Saturday night game. Okay, probably for you, Mike, it was early in the morning.
Yeah.
So, but probably it's something that everyone especially looked forward to, and you kind of expect to finally just turn up against one of these kind of sides and get the 3 points, and it would have brought us to second in the league, only a couple of points behind, especially after the results. So from that perspective, emotionally, it's like 2 points dropped. But I think at the end of the day, if you take a step back, based on how the game went, especially in that 30-minute period in the second half, where it just looked like we were fighting, we were trying to fight, but we weren't in the game somehow. It wasn't clicking, it wasn't working, you take the point, and it's a point gained for us, right? You don't look at it as 2 points dropped then. Again, especially as we lost that game, last season or the season before. And we probably would have lost that game on Saturday, I think, if we had under Ange. I think we probably lose that game. I think we concede another goal. Maybe we would have scored an extra goal, but we probably lose that game 2-1 or 3-1, in all honesty, I think. So you take the point, you accept the fact that Xavi isn't up to speed yet, and he's not playing kind of in his preferred position yet. Xavi didn't play very well, to be honest, on Saturday either. Let's be honest, he had like 2 driving runs that were quite good, but he didn't play very well either. The left wing is an issue. The midfield balance wasn't there. Richarlison, who we haven't mentioned yet, actually once. I mean, apart from that Burnley game, well, the first 2 games, right? But certainly the Burnley game, to me, he just ends up running around the whole time, desperately trying to either trap a ball, hold it up or win a 50-50, or try and do something, and it just doesn't work. And I think he's struggling a bit as well with the way that the team's playing on the system. But there's a lot of how do you say, to-dos, right, to solve. There's a lot of questions that need answering. But I would again say to every kind of Spurs fan out there who's written something even potentially negative about Frank, actually, after that game, because I saw quite a few negative comments online. Kind of wake up a bit, be realistic. We're 10 game. We're not even October, right? He's taken over a team that finished 17th in the league with the highest XG against in the league, right? Like, you can't just take over a team. Take the trophy win out of it. That was great, right? Again, we're forever thankful to Ange for that, right? We're winners. We got that trophy, but that doesn't change the form in the league. And when you go into games like we did on Saturday, winning the Europa doesn't impact that. There's no difference. Like, the fact that we won that game doesn't automatically mean that all of our players are winners now and are going to turn up against Wolves and blow them out of the water. I think that's what some people don't. Maybe I don't want to say they're understanding it wrong, but there's a misconception around that, that you just end up win a trophy and then you end up kind of automatically changing the mentality and becoming winners. I don't think that's strictly true, and it's not the case. It's down to Frank now to take over a team that was leaking goals for fun, and he has to get us solid. He has to get us competitive. He has to get us winning points, and then he has the whole season and the season after to work game by game on trying to build attacking plays, again, working out how the midfielders and stuff, We're not letting in stupid goals left, right, and centre. We're not allowing 25 shots against left, right, and centre on the break. Porro, even when he's played, he's not stuck out of position somewhere. He's more disciplined now. So it's 1 point gained. It's 1 point gained, and in the end, it's 1 point more than we probably would have got last season. And do you know what I mean? I honestly think we have to be positive about it, and we have to accept. And I mean, Frank's accepted, right? Frank has admitted himself. Frank is very open after the games, isn't he? Saying, "Oh, we didn't click. Attacking wise, we've got a lot of work to do." He's being very open about it. At least, if he was there after the game saying, "Oh no, we played really well," and we didn't take our chances, or we couldn't create the final ball or something, then you'd probably have to question it a bit and say, well, are you watching the same game? Frank's being open about it. So let's be positive about it. Let's take the point, and move on, right? There's still positives out of that game, right? There's still some players that came out of that game, with positives. Again, the defense overall, they didn't do anything wrong, right? They were a solid unit. Udogie, I thought, played well again. He's coming back from injury. Bergvall, more minutes into his development. Paulina, obviously. So let's be positive. Let's be positive about it. A 0.1.
Well said, Philip. I think patience is needed. I like the positive outlook, and that's the thing. It's really important to remain positive, and that's the thing. As much as I'd like to see us where we are on the table, particularly where we were for this game week. But even after now, you're in and around that kind of top 4 or 5. You just know that when you're in that area of the table, there's always going to be pressure on you to deliver. And, let's say, we were first or second, which we were second for a period, then everything else you've seen, that's a downfall, rather than, it's a bonus we're even in that position, or we're as close to Arsenal as we have been up until now. But I've got people already not being funny saying, but we're 3 points behind Arsenal now. Right, I'm not even thinking about that. I'm thinking about where are teams in and around that we're going to be fighting with. And I think
we're 6 points ahead of Newcastle, aren't we?
Yeah.
6 points ahead of Newcastle. We're 3 points ahead of Chelsea. We're God knows how many points ahead of Villa. That's who our competitors. We're not competing with Arsenal. Not yet.
Yeah.
If we go and spend more money in January or in the summer, and Frank starts developing, we can compete with the top 4 teams properly, but not today.
Yeah.
No one should get too carried away by that either.
And by the way, I plan to speak about the likes of Richarlison players a little bit later. We'll get through the general analysis, and we'll move on to players. You're right, we haven't talked about Richarlison, but I think there has to be a conversation had about how we can get involved a little bit more, and maybe his kind of future in this team. No dig at him at all, but it's about trying to get him involved more than anything. But Wheelsy, there's a comment in the YouTube chat here. I'm going to read it out for people listening on audio, via podcast platform. And it says, it's from Drake Shady, who says, we're slowly shredding that Spursy tag. Do you agree, Wheelsy? Because part of me goes, that's probably right under Frank, totally. But at the same time, we still didn't beat Wolves in this game. And they are our bogey team. And it's now 6 games, I believe, without beating Wolves. So how do you view that whole Spursy kind of narrative pushed by rival fans?
I mean, I do agree with Drake Shady here. I know you said we've not beaten Wolves for 6 games, but you only have to look at that West Ham game we played earlier this month. We haven't beaten them away for 6 years, and then we beat them 3-0. So I think on top of the trophy that we won last season, we are slowly shedding that Spursy tag, because if we were still Spursy, Man United would have won that final back in May. So I like to think that we're shedding the tag.
Love it, absolutely. As comment says there, don't jinx it. They're right. But Wheelsy, let's stick with you and move on a little bit. On Wolves, our opponents in this game, their second half, how did you think they played, and what do you think that means for the rest of the season? Because they've shown the ability to change formation. Pereira's done that a lot, but they were quite competitive against what is the top 6 club. But let's be honest with you, it was a tough place to go for them. And in that second half, they just seemed to find another gear or two.
I mean, to be honest, before Wolves kicked this season, I did have Wolves to go down in relegation in my predictions. And the results right now are favouring my prediction, because the 1 point in 6, it's not good enough if you want to stay up in the Prem, especially with all the... You see Sunderland, they're currently 4th in the league right now. They're trying to solidify themselves as a Premier League team. And I don't think Wolves have it in them to keep kicking on like this for the rest of the season. Obviously against Spurs, it's a bit different because they know how to break us open, but I don't think they could go to, let's just say, Arsenal away and do the same thing. I don't think it's possible. So Wolves, on their day, they are a good team, but I don't think they'll be able to continue it for the rest of the season.
Good point. Yeah, exactly. Especially West Ham getting a new manager in Nuno. At the time of recording, they are losing 1-0 to Everton. But the point is, the way Nuno speaks, he just seems to get it, number one. But West Ham, if you think about it, just go ever so slightly off topic, they get it right. Let's be honest with you here, as Tottenham fans. The likes of Walker Peters, Wan-Bissaka, Tadibo, Kilman, they're good defenders. If he brings it together and makes a defensive unit he had at both Wolves, but in particular at Nottingham Forest, that could really work. And if you look at midfield as well, just bought Mateus Fernandes, that's a big signing. If they get it right, keep hold of Paquetá, I think that's key. They've got the likes of Bowen in attack. Somerville, I think, could be a real problem. So if he gets it right and they go back to the basics of defending and sort their midfield out, that for me is a big issue for West Ham. Holes absolutely everywhere. They go to a 3 midfield, stop playing Souček and Ward-Prowse, and he's got a team there. So the point is, Wolves are going to find it tough when the likes of West Ham are going to improve and others in and around them as well. Because Burnley, they're down there in 18th with 4 points, but I think we can all agree they should have a little bit more on the board. Yeah, they're very unlucky against Man United. What was it, 98th, 99th minute, snatched away from them, penalty Bruno Fernandes, it snatched against them, Liverpool and Man City, to be fair, 1-1 at half time. I know they lost 5-1. So the point is, Wolves are going to struggle down the bottom. But Mike, on Wolves, did they deserve their first point of the season? If you don't agree that they did, do you think they deserved less or more? I'm interested to get your thoughts.
Oh, look, they're our bogey team. They always come for us. We didn't do good enough. So, yeah, they can have the point. I mean, they worked hard enough for it, and I think they showed up. So, look, I agree with what Wheelsy was saying. I reckon they'll go down. It's not a great team. If your best player is that Santiago Bueno guy, you're not going to be great. But for some reason, he always rocks up against us and shows us how it's done. So as much as I'm not loving Wolves right now, I think that they do have a lot of work to do. They're very, very defensive. I don't really know what they got going on, but I'd take João Gomez. I will say that that midfielder they've got that we looked at previously, is it Mario? Is João Gomez? That's the guy? He's all right. I like him, but I think they certainly got a lot of work to do if they want to stay up.
Yeah, absolutely have got work to do, as all the clubs have down the bottom. But quickly touch on the referee, because some people were disappointed with him. And of course, being a season ticket holder myself, being in the stadium, you naturally, to take it out on the referee, get annoyed with the referee. But you often look back at the decisions and think, hang on, we couldn't see a thing from back there. And often, I think the referee is poor in this country. I think VAR have had a shocking start to the season, to make that clear. However, I think the referees seem to be the first to blame. Let's look at Arsenal against Newcastle. They play well. Focus on why you can't put the ball in the back of the net rather than if you're going to get a penalty. That's just the way I look at it. It's not just Arsenal. I think they're a good example in this situation. I think managers and players and fans, they all tend to do it. It's the referee first. I think focus on yourself, then go to the referee. Because in this game, I don't think the referee had a great performance. But Mike, I'll come back to you. I want to know your thoughts on how the referee did, because both sets of supporters seem frustrated at times with the referee and yellow cards at certain times, not really having control of the game.
Yeah, I think all the refs have had a crappy start to the season, but I would also say that VAR has been shocking this season in Prem. So I think that that's actually made it harder for everyone to get a grasp of the game. Like, as a fan, the experience is shaped very much by the ref's interpretation, and VAR is supposed to give you some objectivity. I think it's been just as confusing for the refs, VAR altogether, as a fan to watch, because you just don't know what's going to happen next. And I think, that adds a bit of fun or element of randomness to the game. But in terms of knowing the rules and being able to interpret them, no, it's been pretty bad. But I will say that I think as fans, you can get a bit carried away with what refs do, but they always say that decisions always end up balancing out in the end. So it's kind of a non-factor. Really, what you show up with on the day and what you bring is what's important. And everyone's got to be able to focus really on our team and what we can control. And the refs will never be one of those things, and VAR won't either. So we need to just be better and not think too much about the refs, I'd say, generally.
There's so many times that this weekend, even, that referees haven't given something blatant and obvious, such as red cards, for example, for clear denial of goal scoring opportunities. They just haven't given it because they know that if they give it, and it's like very rare that VAR are going to overturn it, it's all about support the referee's on-field decision. But at the same time, they become lazy because they know VAR will sort that. There's going to be a check. And that's the problem. For me, it's a really good idea, VAR in general, but it's got to be applied right. And you've got to make sure the referees aren't lazy. It's used to their advantage because they've got a tough job. We want to make it easier rather than making them redundant, which it feels like at the moment. And as for you can't call them linesmen, apparently. What they call them, assistant referees, so basically the linesmen. I mean, what do they do exactly apart from keep the flag down and, cause injuries? Just how I feel, but I could rant about officials all day. But the point is, that's not the reason we didn't win the game. Philip, though, can I ask you, Thomas Frank, did he get his selection wrong to start both Bentancur and Paulinho together? He did that in defeat against Bournemouth. There's a clue, our only defeat of the season. And also, did he make a mistake not to start Xavi in the 10? We have touched on that. So if you can focus more on Bentancur and Paulinho, because it felt very conservative, very defensive, against a team that are bottom in the league, can't score for love nor toffee and are defensively vulnerable. It just felt like a game where we could almost even play without any number 6, let alone 2.
Yeah. I mean, he did get it wrong. He got it wrong. I guess if you look at it, it looks more defensive, anyways, in terms of the player profiles for sure. But I think probably even more important than just the defensive aspect is just the fact that I don't think that they can play together. Like they don't seem to, match each other up, or what's the word? Bring out the best in each other. Complement each other. Right? They don't seem to be able to do that. I just felt that there was a complete lack of balance, and I couldn't quite put my finger on exactly what it was with them. Paulino obviously played well. His goal was great. He got stuck in, did what he had to do. But Bentancur, I thought his positioning was a bit weird. I thought he was slow. Like whenever he got the ball, he was extremely slow. Either kind of striding forward with it, or even passing it progressively. Did a lot of sideways passes, a lot of backwards passing. So from that perspective, he did make the wrong call. There's probably an argument where you could even say at home against Wolves, do you even need Paulino to start at all in the game like that, really? Like when you've got Sarr, Bergvall and Bentancur, he could have even, if he wanted, gone for Sarr and Bergvall, to be honest, which I think would be extremely... I think a lot of... I certainly would love to have Sarr and Bergvall in there, the two young guys with Xavi in front of them. I think it could work against, at home, theoretically, against certain teams because they've got the energy, and they'll keep on running, they'll get stuck in. But maybe it's a bit too much, like Bergvall's still only 19, Sarr's 21 or something. Xavi's 20, it's not many teams have got 3 kind of central players who are that age. So, look, it's not easy, but I think he did get it wrong, and I really hope he's learning from that. I think that Frank likes Bentancur as a player, so he gave him praise after the game as well, which is fine, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it builds the player up, etc. But I really hope that he makes some kind of almost tough calls around that. He has to see that. I think he has to see that. It's either Paulino or Bentancur. And even if Paulino doesn't play, I would also question then is Bentancur and Sarr or Bentancur and Bergvall? I don't know. I'm not. That's what Frank's gonna have to work out, and I can't. As I said, I would love to see Sarr and Bergvall in there because I think it could work. I don't think that's going to happen that often at the moment, but let's see. And then when Kulusevski comes back, actually, anyway, it's another topic, right? Because we're all hoping that he's going to come back probably not that far away now, right? Maybe another month or so. I think he's in pretty much full training, isn't he now? Or at least he's running and kind of doing everything. But when he comes back, he's surely going to go into the number 8 role. You would have thought, right? Because he's not going to play on the right instead of Kudus. He's not going to play him on the left, unless if he decides with his left foot he can kind of go down the line. But I don't think he will.
Well, nice problem to have. A good headache for Frank.
It's a good headache, but it's. I would say probably we're the team in the league at the moment where we don't have any idea, and Frank doesn't have any idea, but I certainly don't have any idea really what the most effective setup is right now. And I think, honestly, every game we're like, who's going to start in midfield? Like, I don't like. It's a really difficult one because I just think, again, I think the balance is just completely. It's not there. Like that balance is missing, and I can't put my finger on exactly why. I don't know. I don't know what the reason is, and it's not just because of Bentancur. It's not just because Bentancur and Paulino are both too defensive. It's not just because of that. That doesn't help when you're playing at home against like a team that could get relegated. But I think it's their way of play and how they pass and how they move, and you know what I mean? There's something that just doesn't work.
I reckon it might be also like Frank trying to impose his own history and ideas on this new Tottenham side he's got. Like, if you think about how he used to like playing Norgard at the base of that kind of midfield, I reckon he's going for a bit of his dilemma really is that he likes a mature six to kind of an age-appropriate six to kind of be there and balance the midfield, but he's got three young players that are great. So, sorry, this is all getting chewed up by Phil's cat time, so we'll go to that.
Yeah, Felix got his cat on screen. We can't see his couple of comments then. Saw his cat in the background. Oh.
She says that it should be Bergwall and Sarr, by the way, in midfield.
I agree.
Yeah, she agrees with you. Yeah, there you go. Wheelsy agrees as well. Wheelsy, I'll come to you on a positive note, because that was a little, not dig at Frank, but a little question about what he done. Got to look at the other side of things. Does Frank deserve credit for his substitutions in this game, which I would argue helped us get that point? Sarr getting that assist, he come off the bench.
I mean, absolutely. If it was Ange, we wouldn't have subs until like the 80th minute of the game where it didn't really matter. So I think subs should be applauded when they're put on. But no, I think he did get the substitutions right. But I think the players that were substituted on should have had the place in the starting 11 to begin the game. Like Sarr in the midfield, Odebero out on the left, and then Xavi in the 10. But the subs can be impactful if they're played right. And I think they did make the positive impact near the end of the game.
Thank you, Wheelsy. And let's move on to players' performances. I want to talk about 4 players, get you around the match, and we'll move on eventually to Bodo. Wheelsy, I want to stick with you. Would you agree that Bergwall and Kudus, across the whole 90 minutes, or the period that the likes of Bergwall were on anyway, they were the standouts again in this game?
I would think so, yeah, because I was watching, I was in the South Stand, and I could see Bergwall putting a lot of pressure on the goalkeeper when he had the ball at his feet to try and, put him off and claim the ball at his feet. Bergwall him being so young, it's a positive impact to the squad because he has a lot of energy in the tank, and that's what we need in the squad. And Sarr as well, as I said before, he's so detrimental to the squad. He sets the pace of the game, sets the tempo, and if you have 2 players like Bergwall and Sarr on your team, you're set for a good 90 minutes if they're played for 90 minutes, of course. But yeah,
that is the thing. Let's go to man of the match for all of you, and then I want to focus on 3 individuals. The individuals you focus on might be your man of the match, but I might pick them also for a bad reason rather than good. You don't know that, so we get onto that. And Wheelsy, I will start with you. Who's your man of the match? He could be a Wolves player, but ideally Spurs in this game, and why?
No, it's got to be Spurs. And simple answer, Palhinha. He scored a winning goal, and there wasn't really key moments where I could pick out individual performance from the game, but I'd have to say Palhinha because I absolutely love him. He's the 6 that we've needed for years, and to score the winning goal in that fashion at the last minute of the game, it's worthy of a man of the match award from me.
Totally agree with you. And not many people will like this, but for me, he's the closest. Well, I think he's better, don't get me wrong, but Højbjerg is a player that comes to mind in terms of that typical 6 that didn't quite work out, because it really did at times under Mourinho, but for me, didn't get the credit that he deserved. It's off the ball stuff, and Palhinha does off the ball, but also on the ball stuff is a little bit more clever. And I think what Palhinha has for the tackle, Højbjerg had in the block and the aggression and the fight, in my opinion. So yeah, number 6 you need. Spurs have missed it. We wonder over the years why we walk through like knife through butter, like under Ange, and you wonder, and we play so high, fullbacks, gun-ho, football, and you don't have a number 6. So good to not be doing any of those things. No dig at Ange. Very, very grateful for everything he's done. And as far as I'm concerned, they're a Tottenham legend, but still very good coaching under Frank. But Philip, before I get distracted again, which seems to be happening a lot, who's your man of the match in this game?
I agree with Wheelsy. I mean, it's got to be Palhinha. I mean, even without the goal, I thought that he did everything right in the game. He got so many tackles where he gets the ball where you think there's no way you can get the ball from there, but it somehow just like hooks a foot round and gets it. And I mean the goal that he basically saved us the point. He won us that point. So for me, it's got to be him. Honourable mention, I would say, for Bergvall, just for his work rate and, what the shift that he put in. Apart from that, I don't think there would have been that many other real kind of standout players that would have competed for man of the match, to be honest. So yeah,
Okay.
Paulina.
Thank you. Mike, you got anyone different, or are you going to go with the guy that saved us a point at the death in the Paulinho?
No surprises here. Going Paulinho, he's an absolute gun. I'm glad the boys agree. So it's him. And to be honest, you can't really give Bergvall another man of the match. He's won all of them so far. So you got to give someone else a chance. But he was very good.
Yeah, he was good. Exactly. Hence why we mentioned him. Thank you for that. So the three individuals I want to focus on are Vicario, Simmons, and Richarlison in particular, for different reasons. We'll get onto that. I want to start with Vicario. I don't want to I've got to be careful how I word this, but the wording with Vicario from certain big profiles is very interesting. Without mentioning anyone, very, very interesting and kind of controversial, is to say the least. So, Mike, can I start with you? Is it time to have a serious conversation? I'm not going to ask you whether Vicario is good enough for Tottenham, but whether Vicario should be the number one goalkeeper or not, with Kinski looking good.
Yeah. I mean, I really like Kinski. I think he was unlucky not to keep his spot at times last season under Ange. I think he's been good in the cup competitions in Europe. He's class, Kinski. So they bring different things to the game, Vicario and Kinski. I think Kinski's got a bit more aggression, a bit more of a natural distributor, whereas Vicario is more your shot saver, spectacular leap kind of shot blocker now and then. So they're different. And I don't think it's throwing any shade on Vicario to say that he might not be the number one or that there's competition. I think that's a sign of a good deep side. There should be competition for that keeper spot. We've seen it even at Arsenal, Ramsdale being number one until Raya pushed him out. So, you've got to have competition for the gloves. I think the hard thing is that Vicario has been seen as a leader and in that leadership group for a long time. And maybe when he's shaky and he makes mistakes, people question his skill as a keeper and maybe his leadership as well. I think he's been very good, but I think, it's time to give Kinski a go. And that doesn't mean anything harsh necessarily on Vic. It's just saying that Kinski's up and coming, he's young, and I think Wheelsy said that he's going to be, in future, probably the number one. So it makes sense to give him a shot.
It does. Thank you, Mike. Wheelsy, what have you made of Vicario's start to the season? Because playing rather completely differently under Frank, which may sound silly to say for a goalkeeper, but a load of different things. That the ball's not on the floor quite as much for him. Sometimes he's going to go long. For example, he now takes all the free kicks, inside their own half. Especially teams that are defensive, like Wolves, for example, in this game. I think it's really interesting to see. So, how do you think he's coped with that completely different manager with new ideas and different way of goalkeeping for Vicario?
I mean, I know he has Romero and Van de Ven in front of him, but 3 clean sheets in 6 games, that's a 50% clean sheet ratio for the season so far. Now, I think that's pretty decent considering the point that we were at last season. We couldn't keep a clean sheet at home for absolutely nothing. So I think Vic needs a bit more praise than what he's been given recently. I know his game against Wolves wasn't his best showing of his capability, but no, I do trust him, but I also agree with the panel in saying that Kinski does need a run out to show his ability and what he's capable of and push Vicario for that number one spot. So, no, Vicario, I love Vicario. As a fellow Italian, I love seeing Vicario on the pitch. And, I don't really have many bad things to say about him apart from his performance on Saturday, but I think people need to give him a bit more praise in comparison to what I've been seeing online this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I find it hard not to say what I saw about Vicario, and it's not like disgusting or anything like that, but we're talking about a player that has done well at Tottenham. 17 million we signed him for, 1.7. That's a good bit of business.
Bargain.
A bargain, absolutely, whatever you think of him. You can ask questions about if Tottenham need better, whether they should have better, or whether Kinski should be given a shot. But some of the wording like to suggest he's like a poison, which has been spread. And I think if you represent yourself on X, I'm a small content creator myself, but if you're a big page or big content creator, you've got to be careful how you word things. It doesn't kind of encourage hate of our player. I'm just putting it out here, but I think that's a big problem why we have fans jump on players. When you have someone that you look up to, thousands and thousands, and they say things in the same way. But I don't want to get too much into it. But apart from that, I'll keep coming back to it. But Philip, I'm going to ask you about Kinski, though, moving on slightly, because I know this is something you feel passionate about. You always talk about a lot, and I find it interesting to hear you talk about Kinski as a player I know that you rate. Do you think it is time Frank turns to him and gives him a shot, as much as you, I know, also like Vicario?
I do, yeah. And I think just to go back to the beginning on Kinski, like just as a side note, one of my best buddies, my best mates from home, right, where I grew up, has lived in Prague for the last 12 years or so. And his kids basically train in the youth, in the boys section of Kinski's old club. And basically in the Czech Republic, they rate Kinski pretty much as highly as Peter Cech was at that age, right? So obviously we're not going to put too much pressure on him and say he's going to be, the new Peter Cech, because Peter Cech's probably one of the top 5 keepers probably in Europe in the last 50 years, arguably, of all time, maybe even. But they rate him, and it was a coup to get him. Like, we did really well to get him, and I think that the attributes that he has, it's so good for our game. What we need, his distribution is already light years ahead of Vicario or anyone else who we've had. His kicking is outstanding, his long throwing is outstanding, his command of the box is outstanding on free kicks and corners. If there is a weakness to him, it's his shot stopping, let's say, compared. But if you look at, videos and stuff on him, I know, again, YouTube doesn't mean everything. He is a good shot stopper. I think he's had nerves, coming in last season in front of a very leaky defense, right? Admittedly, also, that didn't have the same players playing every week. Must have been a very tough, kind of welcome to the Premier League, right? Straight in. His first game was against Liverpool, wasn't it? I think maybe even at Anfield, possibly. Remember?
Yeah, it was up there, wasn't it? That and Villa. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, and he's young, but
yeah, it was. Sorry, yeah, it was. I'm just remembering now. It was. Yeah.
He got thrown right in the deep end, didn't he?
Massively. And he did all right, and he's a good guy. He's he's got his head, he's switched on, he doesn't act like a kind of show offy or anything like that. He's been brought up in the right way, let's say, so he's a really good guy for us. And I think that where we are with the team in terms of how Frank wants to play as well, I think he would, if we can bed him in and give him a run of games, I think he would cement the number 1 spot relatively quickly. In all honesty, I rate him that highly. And again, like what you said, Harry, I mean, some of the stuff that the keyboard warriors out there are posting, or as you may have alluded to, some of the bigger, accounts or shows or whatever, right? Saying about Vicario, I mean, that's unacceptable. Vicario has done a sterling job for us for the last couple of seasons. We got him for a good price. We didn't pay 60 million for him. We paid 17 million for him. He came in, he probably overperformed in some respects, right? In terms of what fans were expecting. He made those saves in the Europa League final, right? Under high pressure, when it would have been Spursy to kind of let one in. He didn't. He was strong, And yeah, he has phases where he's nervous, where he seems to lose composure. He's not great on corners or crosses, is he? Unfortunately, although he seems to have improved a bit, since he kind of came in. If only, and I guess that's probably why he isn't playing for a genuine kind of top 1 or 2 club, right, in the Premier League or in any other league. If only he could bring that 360-degree part to his game, on crosses, on commanding the box, then obviously he would be a 60 million, keeper. And that's the reason why he's not. But, we need to respect him. And I really like Vic. I think he's a great guy. He seems to be a leader. So it's unfair to get on his back. And the discussion should be more about, well, he's obviously good enough to be our number one, and he's been a very good number one, and he's a leader. So, but let him and Kinski really fight for the number one jersey, I would say right now. It's not like we've bought in another player for 25 million like Arsenal did. I think that's a different situation because they had, who was it, Mike? You said, who did they have before? When they
had Raya that came in for, what's his name? Ramsdale.
Yeah, exactly. Ramsdale was the number one, right? And he expected to remain the number one. They brought in an expensive keeper. They said, hey, fight for it. Didn't quite work out. But Kinski's a young guy. He's a challenger, And I don't think that Vicario, in all honesty, I don't think he would, take it in a bad way. If Kinski came in and got a run, do you know what I mean? I don't think he would... he wouldn't hold it against Kinski, He wouldn't get acrimonious because he's 20 as well, Kinski, or something like that, right? So do you know what I mean? Like fair play. I think Kinski deserves a run of games, and with all of the cup games we've got, hopefully he will get some game time. But look, if Frank decides that Vicario stays our number one, great. Vicario hasn't made any terrible errors really over the last 2 years, really, not consistently. And maybe Vicario will improve as well with a solid defense in front of him. That's another thing, isn't it? He was nervous last season. So look, but anyone who disrespects Vicario and says, oh, he doesn't deserve to wear the shirt, like any player really of Spurs, if people say like that, then they don't really deserve to call themselves fans. Let's be honest. No,
I do agree with that. And listen, I'll tell you who actually did post that. And first, I'll just say, it's last one on Spurs firstly, right? But I have a lot of time to make it clear for them and everyone associated with Last Word on Spurs, because a lot of people listening to this will firstly watch Last Word on Spurs. I have a lot of time for A, Ricky, and B, for all the contributors and regulars. Have a very strong partnership with them. I think they're great in so many ways. Their growth has been amazing. They're very consistent, very hardworking, excellent team, great social media lead. A pleasure to be talking to on a regular basis. However, I disagree with them putting the post out. It's just a question, I guess. But it says, when is the time to have a serious conversation over whether Vicario is even good enough for Tottenham Hotspur? There's a picture of a shirt. For me, I just got the impression from that it's suggesting, is he good enough to wear the shirt? But it might just be a question about, is it time to have a conversation about Vicario? Because that's a very, very valid question. So it depends on which way you interpret it. I just look at that and think that's a suggestion or hint that he's not good enough for the shirt. But that's not mainly what I'm talking about in terms of the criticism of Vicario. A lot of it's just come from fans in general, people saying, he's not fit to wear the shirt. We've seen that before. We've seen it at Mattis Tell recently. Don't think there's any need for it. But, Mike, can I come to you lastly on Kinski? Do you think he deserves a shot in your eyes?
Yeah, he does. He deserves a shot. He's going to be something special, according to what the other gents are saying. And I think I've only seen quality from Kinski, so I'd like to see him play more. The good news for us is we play pretty much every 3 days now, so there's plenty of opportunities to get that shot. And it's also part of Frank deciding what's going to be his first team and what's going to be his cup team, to be honest. So he needs to work out, who he's going to play in which games, who suits which opponents better as well. So I think it's part of being in a lot of different competitions this year, unlike last year where we got knocked out very early. So there's a lot of squad management that comes into play as well here. And I think that, Phil's right. Competition between 2 good keepers is great. And I think what we're forgetting as Spurs fans is that in a proper team, there should be competition for every spot and everyone should be willing to be fighting for their spot every week. And that's what breeds quality. So no one should be touchy about sort of asking a question about whether someone is good enough to be in the side, good enough to wear the shirt can be taken very differently. So that's a point taken. But I think you should be able to have that open and honest conversation as fans. Is someone good enough to be in the team each and every week? But also have faith that if we've signed a player under good judgment and they're trying their hardest, then you've got to be respectful too. And I think that as much as I'd like to see better from Tell, I think that's where that's a good example of where things become inappropriate. Like, he is a really young, talented guy. It hasn't clicked for him yet, but we need to just back him in and keep watching. We can also be critical about what he's not doing, but it should never get to the point of should this player be worthy of being part of our club or wearing a shirt, because that's that's hurtful. And then you see players like Brennan Johnson have to delete their social media accounts, and we've got to sort of ask ourselves, as not just Spurs supporters, but as people, do we want to be the kinds of people who make others delete their own social media in shame or embarrassment?
Exactly. And the reason I bring it up, Mike, is it's all about the wording more than the point. Because there's a conversation to be had, isn't there? About whether it be, let's use Tell as an example, why we signed him. Is he good enough? Genuine question. But start going, is he fit to wear the shirt? Is he a disgrace? Should he be this? And people I know a lot of it is banter, but some of it is just like, if he goes too far and they bring family involved. I think with Vicario, you've got to be very careful, again, if you've got a large following, how you word the question, that it doesn't encourage, even if you don't mean to, and I believe there's no intention, encourage fans to not get his back, but like take it too far and kind of also remove him from the club. Fans have the power to do that. And all I would quickly say is that Brennan Johnson, scapegoat, Tottenham's top scorer. Richarlison, scapegoat. He's Tottenham's current top scorer in the Premier League. And, I just think give players a little bit of time. You're right with Johnson, these socials. I think give them time to settle in. Absolutely.
Does that mean we can talk about Richarlison soon?
We've got Simmons and Richarlison. We've got very quickly on Simmons because we have spoken a lot about him. Wheelsy, I'll come to you on Simmons. How do you think he settled in? And he needs time, doesn't he, before we jump to conclusions? This goes into what we're saying quite nicely. Yeah,
I mean, I think he's been all right, I guess. But that's the thing with coming into a new league. You have to adapt. It's not the same as German football. As it's with every single player that comes from a new league, you have to adapt. You have to spend minutes on the pitch to decide what's going to happen next, and that's Frank's call to make. But if Frank wants to play Xavi on the left to keep him up with his paces, then so be it. But I really do hope, and I've said this about 10 times already, but I really do hope to see him in that 10 position sooner rather than later. But I think in time, we're spending more time with the squad, he will gel and we will see the best of him. That's yet to come.
100%. Totally agree with that. Go on then. Let's move on to Richarlison. The guy who wanted to speak about it is left us in Mike for a brief moment. But let's speak about Richarlison. Philip, I'll kick it off with you. Firstly, do we need to get Richarlison involved in the game more? I think Frank speaks about that in terms of his position. Listen, whether Richarlison's in the team or not, we want him to be involved. And it just feels like Richarlison is either hot or cold. There's no in between.
Well, the way to get him more involved, and certainly in the short term, is to play him on the left as an option, possibly, where he's played before and been very effective, actually. Either coming in from the left or just chasing down, going down into the channel. I actually personally think right now, and it is a shame because obviously Moani still isn't training because of his dead leg, which seems to be a very dead leg.
Quite cryptic, actually.
Yeah. And well, we haven't talked about it yet either, have we? But our other, I'll leave that to you, Harry, to mention afterwards. But
yeah,
it's not looking particularly fruitful in terms of our options in the number 9 role at the moment. Unless if you play Richarlison or you put Tell in there, right? Or you play Scarlett. That's realistically our only options in the short term. So we're kind of, or Frank's kind of also hamstrung a bit there, right? That's the issue. Personally, I don't think that Richarlison, he can do a job as a number 9, obviously, and he's proven it. And against certain teams, if he's in form, then he can do it as well. But he's been struggling the last 5 games, to do anything really. It's not just about like he can't even get on the ball properly and play like do simple moves. Can't get a single shot away. He's the kind of guy who really thrives off having the competition off the bench. I think actually against Burnley when he got his the 2 goals, including the scissor kick. Solanke was fit at that time, wasn't he? He was fit enough to come on. And I honestly think that makes a big difference with Richarlison, having that person on the bench, knowing there's someone to come on in place of him. He doesn't have that at the moment, and I think that doesn't help him. But look, if it was me, I would actually, if I was Frank, I would actually give Richarlison a chance on the left if we had an option in the middle. Because I think Richarlison can be effective there. And in all honesty, I think he'd probably be more effective than Odobert or Tell at the moment there. And that's assuming Xavi's going to play number 10. But the bigger picture on Richarlison, the bigger picture, I was open to selling him this summer, like for sure. And I still believe, regardless what happens, right now I would say we should still try and move Richarlison on next summer for sure, because I don't think he fits into Frank, anyways. Actually, in terms of how he really wants to play, if you look at some of the other players he's had for Brentford, even like Wissa, anyways, and Mbuemo wide, now Kevin Schade, Richarlison. No, I don't know. I would move him on, but for now, play him on the left. And if not, pray and hope that somehow it works. Maybe Xavi needs to play in that 10 role and play closer to Richarlison, so he's got someone near him, because he was very isolated the last games. I don't know.
Good point. Well, thank you, Philip, firstly. But in the stadium on Saturday at Wolves game, I had someone behind me after the game that was just shouting and abused several times. In particular, Richarlison, but also Brennan Johnson, Ben Davies, and just how these players, Vicario as well, how his eyes won't fit to wear the shirt. And I thought, again, you could just say, Richarlison should be moving on now, but it's the fact that we must move him on. They're not fit, they're this and that, every name under the sun. And it's, of course, always disappointed to see him amongst your own fan base. But it made me think about Richarlison, because he seemed to mention him a lot. And I thought, okay, there's probably conversations to be had about Richarlison, but someone like you shut down the argument because you put it completely in the wrong way, and no one wants to listen to you. So I appreciate, Philip, you giving your thoughts on that. And I want to get on to now the bigger picture. Mike, I'll come to you on this one. Talk to me, Richarlison, where are you at right now? How do you feel in terms of his Spurs future? Is there one?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's sort of there's 2 questions. There's how does he fit into the system and how's he going? And there's a short-term future with all our sort of struggles in that position, and then there's maybe the longer-term future. I personally agree with Phil. I think they should have sold him in the last period where they had offers coming from Saudi. But in fairness, he wanted to stay, which you've got to respect. He does like Spurs. He wants to fight for his spot at Spurs. But he does look like a fish out of water. He looks exhausted. He looks look. What I like about Richie, let's talk about a few positives. He does chase hard. He does put the pressure on. His press is good, but he is isolated and he's not getting the service that he needs. And he's also, he just looks really sloppy. Like some of the number 9 play where he's meant to just lay off little passes and whatnot. He can't even side foot a pass 10 meters at the moment to the right player. So I think that he's struggling. And I think that, he's got to be moved on. But what do you do with him now? I think you could put him on the left for a bit, but personally, I think he needs a rest. And he needs to just, even if we play someone who's not a natural 9, so even put Tell in there for a bit or give Scarlett a shot, I think you got to put him on the bench and let him get his hunger and energy back, because he's not really got that striker's instinct or even just quality touch instinct at the moment to be a real good part of the machine. So I personally would like to see us move him on. But, Spurs don't tend to buy well in that striker slot as of late. So Solanke's been ridden by injuries for a long period of time. And then, the longest dead-legged world history is happening to Muani, who's apparently never been injured before coming to Spurs. So what do you do?
Exactly. Only missed 2 games before in his whole career, and they weren't through injury. One was through a dead leg, funny that, and another apparently was due to what do you call it, like a mini fever, which wasn't. It just turned out to be, I think, a migraine or something like that. Anyway, it's only 2 games he missed. So the irony of that. I mean, we'll get onto that, but he's going to be missing more than double of that for Tottenham, which is very, very disappointing. Wheelsy, do you have anything to say on Richarlison before we move on to Bodo Glimt?
I mean, I agree with the rest of the panel, Philip and Mike. I think we should have sold him in the summer, if I'm honest. If we had a proper number 9, I think we would be challenging for the title right now, because the squad we have at the minute is world class, I think. And if we had that goal poacher, the one that bangs in the goals every chance of the game, I think we would upholster ourselves as a serious club to challenge for things. But I think Richarlison should have been sold in the summer. But I'm not going to complain now, because he's, as you said before, he's our top goal scorer this season so far, and there's not really much I can complain about that.
No, that's fair enough. Thank you very much. Philip, you got anything about the longer term with Richarlison? I know that it's something, again, that you wanted to speak about.
Yeah, I think as Mike said, again, at least he wanted to stay. Like he wanted to stay and fight, fight for the shirt, and he obviously feels happy at Spurs and in London, and he's a character, isn't he? He's someone that brings something more into the team, and I think it's a bit of a shame that he can't make that number 9 role kind of his own, to be properly challenged by a Solanke or whoever, or that he's probably good enough on duration to even say that he could play out wide. I mean, we paid 60 million for him, didn't we, from Everton? He was a massive outlay. At the end of the day, if you look at that, he hasn't performed, has he? Based on his transfer fee. I know he's had quite a few injuries, hasn't he, as well? Stop, start. He was kind of seemingly made of ice or made of nothing, right? Whatever you say, like he would just break down always. It's a shame, but I think, Mike said it as well, right? Like he needs a break, actually. He looks knackered again now, I think, There's only so much running around you can do, right? And not winning the ball and, getting frustrated, like mentally as well. I think he's mentally, again, he's a very emotional player, isn't he? If he's in the right spot, then he's amazing. But if he's, finding it a challenge, and I think it can be difficult, and I think he's feeling frustrated now. So he needs a rest. And, I don't know whether whether you can say put Scarlett in to start games. I don't know, like arguably you could, right? It's either now or never. He's shown that he can do quite well, like actually when he started or came on, but I'd probably more likely say, look, put him on the bench and give him a rest, and maybe give Tell some more games. I know Tell has also not done amazingly when he's played up front, let's say, but I think that's also due to the team struggling. And Tell's got the talent, and I mean, he can play number 9. And I think in the future, Tell, once he bulks out a bit as well, I think he will play more games as a central striker. So I'd almost be tempted to say, let's play Tell there a bit more in the meantime, and give Richie a rest, because I don't think there's anything to lose. I don't think Richie's giving us enough at the moment, and certainly Tell can finish. Tell's got pace, so yeah, but and again, longer term, I mean, we need to move him on. I think it's a clear decision, and if you put a poll out, I would still probably predict that the majority of Spurs fans would say, that he probably should be moved on, right? If we can continue to add to the squad, right? I think that's the reality. So we just need to work out what to do with him for the next 6-7 months and get the most out of him. But yeah, he needs a rest, and I think Frank will be able to manage that in the right way. So it's just a shame that Moani's not fit. I know Solanke's obviously, well, yeah, we'll talk about that after. But, if Moani was at least fit, then, he could come on, right? He could come out and then, for half, or we could give him a start. but he's not for the moment. So let's see.
Let's see indeed. But let's move on to Bodo. We'll start with some team news then, which have already been hinted at. Romero has not travelled, reports Alistair Gold for Football London, not travelled to Norway at all for this game. He also missed training on today, which is the Monday, as a precaution. And the fact that he hasn't travelled, Frank said, is a precautionary measure. Dominic Solanke, on the other hand, has undergone a minor surgery for an ankle injury. Thomas Frank has confirmed this. So where do I start? I mean, that's just two pieces of frustrating news. I mean, I don't know what's worse, really. I mean, hopefully Solanke will be back quickly, but I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too much into it. With Solanke, it always seemed to be like, oh, he's going to be back, You know, did they always know he's going to need surgery? Why wasn't this decision made sooner? Has it got worse? So many questions that I have. I would love to be a fly on the wall or ask the questions as a journalist, maybe one day. But Philip, can I start with you? Before we get into the game, with your thoughts on this news that's broke today, which is kind of, I don't know, dampened the mood already before we even got to Norway.
Well, Romero, I'm not concerned about because I assume he's being rested, so he can probably start 2 full games for Argentina in the upcoming, international break, which he always seems to do. But no, in all honesty, I from what I understand, Romero is just like a soreness or something, right? And to be fair, Romero probably could do with a break as well, right? And we've got Danzo, who I assume will start in place of him, and then we've got his long throws from minute 1 as well. So that's okay. That's okay. Solanke obviously is a massive problem. The massive problem. I think us missing Solanke has been one of the biggest issues as well, right, for Frank so far in terms of getting the way that the team plays. Him holding the ball up, but also involving other players. Solanke, people will say maybe he didn't score enough goals last season, or he didn't find himself in enough position. He didn't get enough high XG chances, to be honest, because the way that Ange played, he didn't really, and like Solanke didn't find himself in goal scoring positions somehow. And I thought that would be massively different under Frank. So it's a shame he's not been fit. We lose so much because of him missing. I think it's massive. And now that he's got surgery, minor surgery, what does that mean? I mean, he's going to be out for another 6 weeks, isn't he? At least probably 2 months. Let's be honest. So he's probably going to come back in like Christmas time or something, or December. Even if he comes back in like November at some point, he's not here for the next 4 or 5 weeks. It's a massive issue. Obviously, talking about the striking situation. So I don't know. One thing I would say about it, just quickly, is that I think it's probably easy to get on the club's back about it as well, about the medical stuff. We don't know anything about it. Like Solanke was training normally on occasion the whole time through. And apparently Solanke also said that he didn't want to have surgery. He didn't feel that he needed surgery, but it seems to be a really niggly thing, right? He can walk normally, he can actually run, but it just gets painful and stuff. So I think it's very easy to jump on the club and say, oh, they should have operated on him, straight away. We've lost a month. Maybe it's the case. I don't know, but we don't really know anything about it. But it's just very unfortunate. So who do we play tomorrow? I guess it's going to be Richie again. But I would be personally very delighted. Again?
We'll get on to the team, don't worry.
I'll be fine with it. I'll be fine with it. If Richie goes on the bench, if it means he's fitter for, maybe he's a bit refreshed for the weekend, last game before international break again, which we generally lose anyway. But I don't know. Let's see. It's massive issue. And again, the striking position, like if Solanke's out longer, because you never know, could the recovery could be worse. He might be out till next year. Like honestly, what do we do then? Like honestly, what do we do? What's the solution? That's a massive problem for us because we don't.
But did they know that though about Solanke when they bought Colin Warney? Because I can't see him buying 3 strikers otherwise. That's just the way I look at it. But I don't, not necessarily saying they thought he needed surgery, but they didn't look at him, did they, at that time? I think you're back in a few days, mate. And there must be something more than just thinking we're going to have 3 strikers at the club. Maybe it's just me being pessimistic and thinking, we took us for a while from go to 1 to 2 strikers. You always felt like Richarlison coming in the door, one was going to leave, always Harry Kane was going to leave. So I could be wrong, but I just feel it's weird.
Reading a bit between the lines, I think the club may have had suspicions about Solanke. He injured his ankle last season, didn't he? And it was also niggly.
Yeah.
And then he kind of came back, and then, he wasn't up to full speed. And then I think it's probably like a chronic niggle kind of, and
yeah.
I'm pretty sure, reading between the lines, that the club knew this, and that's why they got Moani in on a loan, obviously, because Moani's not match fit anyways, is he? He's probably going to need 3-4 weeks, I reckon, to get up to full speed as well. That's the problem. He hasn't played since the World Club Cup. But that's why I think they got him in, just in case.
That's what I'm thinking as well. But thank you, Philip. And we'll have to see. Frustrating, isn't it?
It's
really frustrating.
It's a problem because, we don't. Yeah, it's annoying.
It's really annoying. We can't have anything good, can we? Oh, it's frustrating. I just quickly say, for me, it's frustrating that we go into the season with just 3 fit centre backs. As good as we've done the transfer window, as much as we improved the first team, as much as we added depth, 3 fit centre backs. For me, it's always taken a little bit of a risk.
Can we recall Vuskovic, actually?
Oh yeah, good point. Surely there's something in the contract.
He was man of the match, by the way, at the weekend for Hamburg.
How well's he doing as well? Goals and assists everywhere as well as a centre back.
He's phenomenal.
Scary.
Unreal.
Scary. Good point to raise, Philip. But Mike, on the centre back issue, we've spoken about it many times before. But again, you're just thinking, why didn't we go out there and get that centre back? Of course, easy said than done.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've got Danso. Danso will be absolutely fine when Romero's out. Danso's a very good player. I mean, I think he was really good for us last year. I really respect him, not just as a player, but as a Tottenham Hotspur person. He's a good clubman. He loves being there. He brings a good attitude. He's got the secret weapon in the long throw. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not too fussed by Romero not being there, and I think the centre-backs will be fine. I don't see it being such an issue. So, yeah, I'm more interested in how they solve properly for the striker position, which they haven't done, to be fair. Like, they really needed to, at some point, or they hopefully will at some point, realise they've never replaced Harry Kane. Dom Solanke, he's good. He tries hard. He's been in and out of the team, but he's no Harry Kane. And they need to really buy a proper striker at some point, and they've just sort of been putting band-aid solutions in place since Harry left. And it's good that they've got Xavi in as somebody who can kind of be a Sonny, not replacement, but sort of player. But they got to get serious about the number 9, and I think you can see now just with how tired Richarlison is and how ineffective he is, and he keeps having to be played because there's no one else, that it really shines a spotlight on really poor club management and really poor strategic and club planning around that position.
Indeed. But onto the game itself, the final few minutes of the podcast. Wheelsy, talk to me. Bodo, how do you feel about this one?
I mean, we're revisiting a team that we knocked out in the semi-finals of the Europa League. So it's very exciting to see both clubs in the top European competition. I expect us to do well as we did last season. Obviously, we have new players in, key players out like Solanke. But all in all, I think we should thrive in the Arctic Circle. I don't think it'll be a cricket score of a game, but I do expect us to come away with the result, as I do every game, as an optimistic Spurs fan. But we will see, and we will reflect on the game in an upcoming podcast. But I think it will be a good game.
It should be, shouldn't it? No, thank you, Wheelsy. Well put. Mike, how are you feeling ahead of this one? A trip to the Arctic Circle, as Wheelsy rightly says, a trip to Norway.
I'm feeling a little bit shaky, to be honest, just after the Wolves performance. But, our record's been good against them. What can you say about Bodo? Well, they've been in really good form, actually, in the Norwegian league. And I think that some of their players are looking to have hit good form at the wrong time for us. So I won't be taking it as lightly as some of us. I think that, we'll still have to show up and do a good performance. So it'll really depend on how Spurs show up on the day. But Bodo are a good side, and I think that they can probably worry us a little bit, but I'm thinking we'll probably come away 3-1.
Okay.
In that one.
A couple of insights for you here then, because as you mentioned it, Mike, Bodo haven't lost in 5 matches, but also haven't kept a clean sheet in 6 matches. So that's a really interesting stat. Always goals in their games, basically. Tottenham haven't lost in 5 matches. Last defeat was Bournemouth, and Tottenham won the previous 2 games against Bodo Glimt. Both teams form in the last 5, both 3 wins and 2 draws. So overall positive, but it's interesting. This Aspire Stadium in Bodo, Norway, capacity is just 8,000. I repeat, 8,270. It's an artificial surface. The weather forecast at the moment, I think it's always interesting to look at it when you go to the Arctic Circle. Obviously, it'll be night time there, 9 p.m. local time, 8 p.m. UK time, and it's going to be 10 degrees. I've now actually changed that to 11 degrees. That's funny that. Always change the weather. It's realistic there. Changed it as I was reading it out. So 11 they're going for. So nothing horrible. I was worried this game would kind of be in December. But Philip, give us your short and snappy thoughts on Bodo.
Well, I think we'll win as well. I'm going to go for another clean sheet. 2-0.
Oh, I'm going to say your score prediction. You beat me to it. All right, you got your score prediction early. You'll go to the score predictions then, and we'll get to what lineup you want to see then. You've got early that on, Philip. So you got it in early. Thank you. Philip goes 2-0 Spurs on a clean sheet. Wheelsy, what's your score prediction?
I mean, even before Philip said anything, I was thinking 2-0 as well. A repeat of last season, but we'll see.
Nice stuff. Any idea who you think will score, Wheelsy?
I said this to you at the Wolves game when I saw you, but I do think there'll be a set piece goal from a centre back. I feel it coming.
Yeah, you did say that, and I thought about it, and I think I agree with you on that one. Philip, what about for you? Do you see a first goal maybe for Kudus or for Simmons? What do you think?
Danzo header, and a Xavi first goal.
Yeah, love it.
Mike
looks like he's in agreement.
Yeah,
go, Mike,
I can't wait to see Xavi's first goal. I think it'll be Xavi's first goal, and I think Kevin Danso might do something special. Whether it's an extremely long throw that's longer than a corner, or he scores from a throw or something, he'll do something special.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. You'll got your score predictions in there. Go on, I'll give mine. I don't often, but I should. What do I think? I'm going with 3-1 Spurs. I think we win, but I think it might be a bit tight and nervy in the first kind of 35 minutes or so. I think it'll be 1-1 for a long time, but I think as soon as you get that second and floodgates were open just a little bit. But let's go on to lineup and what we want to see. Wheelsy, can I start with you? What's your predicted lineup do you think Frank will go with?
Well, I think there will be many changes because we just played on Saturday, which was like 3 days ago. So there's going to be a lot of rested players. I really do want to see Kinski out in goal. I think that will happen if I'm honest. Danzo, as said it back, that's a given considering Romero hasn't travelled to Norway, and I do want to see Dane Scarlett as our number 9 for tomorrow as well. I think he deserves a run out considering what he did against Elfsborg, the Swedish team. Him and Mikey Moore, and I think it was a Jai, all on a score sheet. So I do want to see our youngsters in the squad again, and I think they might thrive.
Okay, that's good shouts there. Thank you very much. Mike, talk us through your predicted 11 that you think Frank will go with, and by all means mention any changes that you'd make.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of changes in this one. I think we'll see probably 5 changes. I think we might actually have a bit of a surprise and see Ben Davies potentially starting at left centre back or left back if he's in the squad. I think we'll probably see Tell in the number 9 position, maybe as a false 9 or something. I'd like to see, obviously, Sarr come back into the midfield. What else I'd like to see? Yeah, I think that's probably about right. I don't know Kudus, whether he needs a bit of a rest or whether he'll, maybe Johnson starts on the right and Kudus will be on the bench. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I do suspect that Benton Kerr will start. Maybe Paulinho has a bit of a rest. So a bit of rotation will be good for the lads. And I think there'll be a strong side out there and hopefully one energised with some youth, but also give some other players a shot who haven't had a chance.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. And Philip, can I end with your predicted lineup and anything you want to see in particular in terms of maybe tactics or personnel?
I think, as the lads have said, I think Kinski start will be good. I think Davies might come in actually, but left back possibly even, because I think this is interesting. I think he'll play Davies at left back, keep Mickey and Danzo, Porro. Porro, I think, might be captain possibly then tomorrow. That might be my prediction. In midfield, Palina to get a rest. Sarr to start, probably alongside Bentancur. Bergvall on the bench for a rest. Kudus, I don't know. He probably deserves a rest as well. Johnson could easily start, which I think is probably fair enough with Kudus to come off the bench. I'd play Tell number 9. And then Xavi number 10 and probably Odebert, right? I mean, that would make sense. But maybe I think that would make sense. Whether he'll do as many changes as that in the end, I don't know. But or whether he maybe gives Udogie, maybe he starts him still to kind of build up fitness because he's coming back. I don't know. But I really hope that Xavi gets the chance tomorrow to start at number 10. I think that's the kind of game where we might need him at number 10 specifically, and where we just need to get him on the ball. And actually tell Bentancur to sit back a bit. So, yeah. But there'll be changes.
There will be, for sure. Thank you, all of you. That kind of wraps us up nicely as we hit the 2-hour point for this episode of the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast, a long one. But I want to thank you all for joining me. I want to thank everyone for listening. Reminder, if you're listening on a podcast platform, that is via audio, please drop us a follow and a 5-star review. If you did enjoy it, would mean a lot. And do, of course, get involved, get in touch. As always, you can get in touch with me at Harry Scarfe too. Across all socials, or drop me an email as well if you do get in touch. A lot of people do, especially regulars listening on audio platform, have a couple email me every week, which is lovely and always interesting to hear their thoughts on the podcast, their thoughts with Spurs, everything going on. So I always do appreciate hearing from you all. It means a lot. So thank you. As I said, though, also on YouTube, if you're listening there, like, subscribe. Still never too late to get involved. Go back and listen. You can also do that via audio. Big shout out to our partners in Everything Spurs Discord server. Great to see so many people in there tonight, which is fantastic. We'll give Wheelsy a chance to promote that in just a second, and also the Kitman UK, and of course Last One on Spurs as well, who are our partners too. But let's go through and see if you can follow all these guys across social media. They've all been brilliant. Firstly, we'll start with you, Wheelsy. Thanks so much. Tell people where they can find you. Firstly, personally, across all socials and all the stuff that you do, and talk to people also about your amazing Discord server.
Well, I know you said in the chat, Harry, that the pleasure is yours. Well, the pleasure is ours, mate. And it's always a pleasure being on the podcast. And I'd love to give a special thanks to Philip and Mike for carrying the conversation tonight. It's been a great conversation talking to you guys. You can find me on all social media platforms, TikTok, X, Instagram, at Mr. Alex Wheelsy. You will see me spinning around at the Tottenham Stadium every week, or whenever I'm there, or whenever I decide to upload. But it's been a pleasure talking to you guys, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Thank you. Honestly, I mean this very, very strongly. It's always a real pleasure to have you involved, Wheelsy, not just as a regular as a podcast, but everything that you do with the thumbnails and that partnership. Just some things feel right, don't they? Some things are meant to be. Some things should always happen in life and in football. This is one of them. So thank you for being associated, for hopefully for the long term too as well. I mean, you're always welcome. So thank you. And good to see you as well at the weekend. Good to catch up. I know we speak daily, of course, on WhatsApp with schedules, with admin stuff. And we weren't we? Keeping both Mike and Philip waiting with our admin chat. But
yeah,
always do love seeing you in person too.
Good.
So thank you.
Always good.
Oh, good stuff. Thank you very much. And also a big thanks to Philip joining us from Germany. Philip, thank you so much for joining us from there. Tell people where they can find you. Talk to people, remind them, should I say, a bit about what you do, because, again, incredibly fascinating.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, H. Pleasure as always, and lovely to meet both of you as well on here, Wheelsy and Mike. Great chat this evening. some very good discussion points. Yeah, mainly on X, I guess, at Frankfurt Spurs, where I tweet mainly about Spurs and Eintracht Frankfurt, actually, my kind of adopted German team here in the Bundesliga. I keep threatening to start some kind of German football podcast, right, on talented youngsters as well, possibly, you know, like the next generation coming through. Harry, we've chatted about that, haven't we, as well? So I think we need to kind of get that going. And yeah, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm on one of the biggest fan clubs, supporters clubs here in Germany. And I guess what with us playing here in Frankfurt in January, you know, if any fans watching this, you know, need any tips or advice or anything on coming out to Germany to either watch Bundesliga actually, or obviously for the Spurs game in January, then hit me up on X, and happy to kind of advise and give some tips and stuff as well. And we'll be arranging a big meetup, by the way, as well. There'll be a massive meetup here as well. So probably combining a lot of different fan groups together and probably also podcasters and stuff as well. So yeah, try and get out here.
Yeah, absolutely. It might be the absolute dream. Thank you, Philip. And yeah, we'll definitely discuss that if you're free soon as well. I mean, you always have the platform here to do, you know, it'd be great to have you involved even more than you are already. Always good to have you on. So thank you, Philip. The platform is absolutely yours. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, early morning for you. Hopefully it was a good way to start your day, a good 2 hours talking Tottenham. I mean, it could be worse, couldn't it? We did lose, but still really appreciate the dedication. Just after 5 in the morning, I hope you got your coffee in. Where can people find you across the socials and talk to people a bit about you and what you do?
Yeah, thanks, Harry, mate. I'm probably the least involved in all the football stuff, being so far away than the other esteemed lads. But yeah, look, happy to be here, even though it is always pretty early. But you can find me just wherever Harry tags me. I'm not massive on social media, so it's at MikeDav84. You'll see in any of Harry's posts that I'm in there. So come say g'day. I'm obviously here in Oz, so if you've got any questions about Spurs presence in Australia or anything else Australia related, you can always come to me. But otherwise, you will see me here whenever I get the kind invitation to come on and talk to you fine lads. So thanks very much. And there probably isn't a better way to start the morning. So thanks very much, gents. It's been a pleasure.
Great to hear. That's what we want. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you for tonight. A very good episode, as always. Reminder, 2 episodes a week, in case you've forgotten. Every Monday and Thursday, 8 p.m. usually, live on YouTube, available anytime after on YouTube and multi-platform. Very proud to say that's not changing. That's not going anywhere. So thank you very much for watching. And for now, a massive come on, you Spurs.